Welcome once again to this very special series on India and Brazil on the KAJ Masterclass live every fortnight, along with my esteemed friend and podcast host Reaoch. You can see him smiling on the screen. We explore together our nation's journeys in business, culture, and politics, and also podcasting as we strive to find our rightful place in the global arena. And my friend Reaoch, he is joining us live from Campinas, Brazil, and he has spent his whole life there, an American known in Brazil as the king of multicultural communication and networking, with a wealth of experience in market development and product management across diverse businesses. Tom is the founder and host of 3 business podcasts. He is a public speaker and also an author. His deep expertise and extensive network will provide invaluable insights into Brazil's dynamic landscape. And today we are talking about, we are exploring top research centers in India and Brazil. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Well, Ajay, thanks again for having me. Thanks for creating this chat that we're able to share information on both sides of several oceans, actually, of opportunities in India and opportunities in Brazil. And since our last chat, it's been very exciting from a Brazilian standpoint. Really to see and hear the fantastic developments by India in their space program. So, landing on the moon and shooting another shot a couple of weeks later to the sun are major experiences that really land, let me say landing in that sense, they land very well here for Brazilians. Because India, again, as we've spoken before, there are opportunities there are opportunities here. Sometimes they're overlooked, all right, of what the competence of each country is and has. So from our point of view, in Brazil, that was highlighted, was on the news, repeated many times, showing the success of what Indians have done and are doing. And obviously a very intense space program that really hasn't caught, let's say, the Brazilian eye before. So congratulations to you and what's happened. Like to hear your thoughts. How did Indians react to that?
Absolutely. And congratulations should go to the scientists, to the people who worked on this whole project. India has been making strides since quite a long time, but this was very special. So, but before I come to how exactly India reacted to it, I want to understand from you, Tom, is that how did Brazil look at it? We get to understand and hear news about how this event was covered in the western side, in the newspapers there, but people don't know about thoughts in Brazil. So let's first understand from you, what was the general perception in Brazil? How much they noticed it, how much they did not notice it?
No, very highly noted. All of the major Brazilian communication networks, radio, television, multimedia, carried it very extensively and very positively. And compared to other ventures by other countries, Brazil obviously has never landed on the moon. But Brazil is highly engaged in outer space development. The northern part of Brazil, just north of the equator, Brazil does have a launching pad that is used by other countries because of its proximity to the equator. Launching of rockets into outer space, satellites, whatever, is sort of an ongoing process here. And there is development. It doesn't make the headlines, obviously. The landing on the moon does, or a couple of weeks later, shooting at the sun. So, and it's still ongoing. So I think there are a number of things that awaken Brazilians towards India in terms of development and further relationships. So that's the positive side. We've known for years, and we've talked about here, of the Indian expertise in terms of mathematics, in terms of science. There are very highly educated Indians throughout the world working on projects. But to see that concentrated in India, I think it was very positive. It's a positive moment even for Brazil, because as the the BRICS move forward and are gaining more notoriety in a positive way, what India has just done adds to that, all right, to the strength of the BRIC countries in sharing technology, in sharing learning, and sharing opportunities. So it's nothing better than very good.
Absolutely, absolutely, Tom. And so now the Indian side, India knows about its prowess in launching satellites in about space. A lot of Indian students are, they are science enthusiasts. We keep on watching not only at what is happening at the international level, but we also very keenly watch where we stand in terms of our own space program. And this is the result of hundreds and hundreds of scientists who have been working on this for many years. And you see, it is all the fruit. And some people still have their own reasoning, their own way of thinking. Like there was this one, I would not say which channel, but there was report that India has got some problems in poverty and all. Is it justified to spend money on things like that? It is not a time to delve into that. That's their way of looking at it. Perhaps they are not too much aware of how things go, how things are actually on the ground. These things are everywhere, but you have to take the shot. Humans are more of exploring in nature, and we need to explore what is there for us. As you know, somebody who was looking at the Mount Everest, and they asked him, why do you want to go for that? And the phrase, because it's there. So we went, and in terms of the space, in terms of the moon, we all are trying to go. NASA, European Space Center,
Right.
or anyone else, we are going there because that is where humans need to understand how it is, and that is where Indians are very, very proud of it. It is like an endorsement of our understanding of science and technology. It is the thing, because now the world understands it. It is like
Right.
one social proof. Not that we needed this proof. The proof was already, the international community was giving this proof. But as general people, when you move out, people now understand it, that this is something special. And India, though India is the fourth nation to be on the moon, on the South Pole, if I understand it correctly, we are the first nation. Especially, this is the soft side of the moon, the dark side of the moon, or
Right.
where you can't see. There is, for billions of years, there have been no sunlight as such. If that is what my understanding is, and that is where our Pragyan lander rover is trying to find out more things. And in terms of minerals, also people say that there are much more chances in terms of ice. This will help all the scientific community to future to know more about how we can use moon as the launch
Right.
pad for future space exploration. So that is something, as our Prime Minister also said during that time, that even though it is the India who has done it, it is the achievement of humanity as a whole. We have always thought about any sort of an achievement like
Right.
this as something which is an achievement for the betterment of humanity. These are thoughts not just of our Prime Minister. These have been thoughts of the way Indians have been. That is why thousands and thousands of years back, our ancestors, those people, they came out with this whole idea of Vasudev Kutumbakam, meaning the world is one family. And that is
Right.
what our Prime Minister reiterated. So that was one thing. And then just a few days later, we have gone for this Aditya L1. It wants to understand, and that is where the objective is, to understand the solar upper atmospheric. So we have got the sun, we have got the moon. We are trying to, as they say, reach for the moon. We have tried that. Reach for the stars. Sun is our
Reach for
star.
the stars.
Yeah, and as I said, it is not just about India. It is also about the world. We have this one Earth, one planet, and every achievement of such belongs to all of us. We cannot see all these things in isolation, even though as individuals we may find it. And that is where the point comes in, that there is so much to also know about Brazil. It has got excellent research centers down there in Brazil. So help us understand your, how people should look at in terms of the research centers that you have in Brazil, so that we get a peep into those things. Normally, we get to hear Brazil from a different angle in
Right.
terms of the Amazon forest, in terms of politics, in terms of few other things, BRICS, association with BRICS. But in terms of
Mhm.
research center, I guess this will be a much more different sort of an insight into what's happening in Brazil.
Well, I want to go back to compare again India and Brazil on two factors, and back to the moonshot and the sunshot from India. And part of what you mentioned, that people say, why do it? Why not spend that money somewhere else? But we have also seen from other Everest being climbed, and people are still climbing Mount Everest, but there is
Right.
always something more to learn. Knowledge is not finite, and development and research is not finite. It's not once you have reached the moon, it's over. Actually, the end of a moonshot is the beginning. It's not the end. And for us as mere persons living on this one world, we understand that there are so many developments that come from advanced research and advanced actions like the moonshot, now the sunshot. So it's not the end of the lines. Well, they've done it and it's forgotten. No, there's so much more information is going to come from that. And we've seen that as persons here, that there's so much today that has been gained from these in terms of medicine, in terms of just basic research. But on the Brazilian side, and this may add to what we just talked about in India, Brazilian academic research has always been very intense, and also world known, but within a closed academic environment, let's put it that way. And I'm speaking here from Campinas, and literally my backyard is one of the largest research centers in the world. It's really one of three, and it's called the CNPEM, the Sirius Project. And this project is really one of three in the whole world. And I had the opportunity of visiting that a couple of weeks ago with another group that I'm part of called the Future Advisory Board. And what we do in this group is to talk about the future. Very simple. And we've been doing this for over 7 years, and we have seen that the future becomes the present very quickly. In the past, we were looking at the future as sort of something far away. But the future for us, and you know that, AJ, future is tomorrow morning. So the advancements from science, from everything, from business, agriculture, we've talked about, happens very quickly. So really, in my own backyard, there's an investment that's taken years to be put together. I was able to see that. It's sort of walking into a Star Wars type atmosphere. And as a common person, you're actually seeing something that you're not really sure what it is you're looking at. But it's so highly technical. And it's open to research, not only for Brazilians. It's part of an organization that's obviously open to the academic researchers in Brazil, but it's open to the world. And it is known by a very small group of researchers throughout the world. And one of their drives now is to open up that opportunity and to invite other companies, persons, to do that research here. So if you have that, and as you've seen, you have it in India, you have the installations, you have the manpower, the people power, the brain power to handle the research. It's very complex research, very, very high, extremely high technology, and it exists. So this was the opening for me and for this group of Future Advisory Board members, really to be part of that future. And at the same time that we were able to visit the installation, and this is called the Sirius Project, they also announced a second ongoing investment for further research, which will make the Brazilian Sirius Project one in the whole world. So they're making an addition to it, and it's called the Orion Project. So the Sirius Orion Project in a couple of years will be the only place in the whole world where you'll be able to carry on research of this level. And again, we open up to companies, to academics throughout the world to do their research. And I can see that happening now in Brazil and India, talking about India. Obviously, the academic and academia persons, India and Brazil, have an understanding of that. But as companies, India has always been very high in pharmaceutical research. We've talked about energy. We've talked about other now space research. So there are certain things that you will need laboratories in other parts of the world to carry on that research, because the investment in this type of research is extremely high, extremely high. But the payback comes from being able to offer that as a service on an open basis. So it's not that, the Brazilians say, well, this is ours and we don't want anybody to come. No, they want other companies, other persons, other countries to come and share that. And this is what I'm going to go back to highlighting the BRICS, not to get into political discussion here, but the more that each of these countries learn about each other, all right, the more sharing can be done. And we've spoken about this before, just to get these leaders around the table. And several of these leaders are not very friendly amongst themselves. But we have seen some very high-level discussions taking this forward. And on the research side, that's the same thing. It's not a football game. It's not a soccer match. There's really no winner here. We can all win, but it has to be collective. It has to be sharing. And I see that happening. So the openness of the borders, all right, along the lines, and then on the space projects on the Indian side, here on the Brazilian side for research, I can see that happening more often. And again, what we're doing is bringing those headlines and highlighting it to other users. So our listeners, the people who are watching us and hearing us, can really understand that both India and Brazil are top shelf research establishments. There is a lot to be done. There's a lot to be learned, and still a lot to do here. So I think that's the plus side of what we've just seen these last 2 weeks.
Absolutely, absolutely. We got to know about your research centers there down there in Brazil, and it's nice to have this and understanding, so that it would be a good thing. I don't know, it must be already happening, but more research exchange between the two countries, and more people go to each other countries and understand. I'm sure it must be happening at certain level. And talking about the moon part, I forgot to mention about when you talked about the interest from India. I guess this was one of the most watched events in terms of people watching it on YouTube. 8 million people watching it live at the so if I understand, that was the biggest highest number of people watching any YouTube event at one particular time. That I'll have to, but this is, if I understand, this is what I read, and that is what I read correctly. So maybe these records will keep on breaking, but I guess this actually shows the level of interest. Though we are a country of huge number of people, more and more people will continue to understand it. And I was one of them watching it, and I can understand that this is just the beginning of so much of research. All those different organizations have been doing, and talking of various research organizations, people who want to know about Indian research capabilities and understanding, they can always look at either in terms of medicine, either in terms of other sort of research. In terms of medicine, everybody knows, a lot of people from outside also try and understand it. There are private sectors also, but in the government sector, we have got the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. A lot of research keep on happening. It's here in New Delhi, and people can know more about it on its website. And in terms of, you have got also the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, ISRO, that is the Indian Space Research Organization. Look at these places. These will give you a lot of information. In terms of statistics, we have got the Indian Statistical Institute, and last but not the least is the Defense Research and Development Organization, DRDO, which is looking at creating a lot of equipments in terms of the defense sector, not only using for use. We all want not to use any sort of arms in the way it is, but in terms of defense, we are trying to produce a lot of things within India in collaboration, and also are equipping other nations who need such technology. So there are even in terms of agriculture, if you ask, we have got the Indian Council of Agriculture Research. So many research institutes are
Right.
there. Even I will not be, I'm not aware of all of them. I need to do my own research on that. But just type in, let's look at least such these institutes which are centers of excellence, which will give you a lot of knowledge in whatever you are doing, and you will come to know that this is how people are putting up so much of efforts in the background, and we
Right.
are only seeing it what is happening outside.
I want to touch on a point that you mentioned. You mentioned YouTube, all right? And if we go back, and I remember when the first moon landing, first space shots happened, and some of them we were able to watch on television. The quality of those shots years ago was very poor. There wasn't any real global communication at that time. So what we actually see today of those first experiences are very poor quality videos, right? And they probably were not available throughout the world at that time. But what you just mentioned, and you're a specialist in YouTube, okay? Now, and that's to the point of how technology is actually being used. So you mentioned the Indian moonshot was highly visible on YouTube. And what has YouTube become? It's become a global platform, really, to see anything, and live, and to be part. The KAJ Masterclass Live exists because of that. And you have the same planetary reach that your Indian space shot has. And I know that we will be partners. Today we're talking about multicultural communication. Part of multicultural communication is not only communicating, but have that communication reach various cultures. And today we're talking about the world. And you can reach anybody in the world. Shortly, you'll be reaching the moon, you'll be reaching the stars. But the technology, the YouTube technology was created in advance because of success from others. And we tend to overlook those successful points, because those persons who were born today, the younger person, just, born within the internet and YouTube, it's always been that way. So they can take their handheld device literally anywhere, and you can watch a moonshot live.
Absolutely.
In top quality. The same way you can watch KAJ Masterclass live in top quality. So these are the things sometimes that we overlook in research advancements as users, all right, to bring that back to our level. So how are we integrated? How have we become integrated in the rest of the world? And that's any event. And they're very simple, not as simple, it's a very complex device. Because our handheld devices are probably they're probably as complex as a moonshot, but we don't realize that. We don't understand how much technology has been placed into so small things. We're talking about a chip. So I think what we need to do, what you do very well, is the multicultural communication part. You're using the platform to get the information out. So to these research organizations, both in India, and I'm referring now to the CNPM here in Brazil, they also need to use the same platforms to get their information out, to show what they're doing. And that's the multicultural communication part. So the platforms are there, the information needs to be shown and needs to be shared. So there's a better understanding of why shoot for the moon. All right. Why shoot for the sun? Why climb Everest? Why do anything? Why, we've talked about this on the previous show, why manufacture motorcycles in Brazil? There are answers to the whys everywhere. And it's there. So I'm just happy again to see the expanse of what you're doing. All right, back to YouTube. We overlook the simple, complex things in life.
Absolutely. And talking of whys, this why is a very, very special word. It can ask questions, it can raise questions, and this why when you start asking questions, this becomes part of your curiosity. And curiosity is what humans are all about. And curiosity, sometimes, it can kill a cat. That human, for the human race, it is the only way to finding more about ourselves, more about the universe, and in the long run, this might be the only way when we can become a multi-planetary species and exist for a long, long time in this vast expanse of the stars. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much for joining us.